Well, hi, hello. I would say happy Wednesday, but it's pouring down and it's freezing cold. Good news, I did get my scooter back. It's got 2 new tyres on the front. Apparently, the manufacturers have decided that there is a sort of design fault with the tracking, which means that yes, my tyres are wearing out really quickly, and part of it is to do with the dreadful state of the roads and the pavement in Fleetwood. You have to live here to know that. They don't do any repairs. I don't know what they do with the road tax here, but they don't do repairs. But partly it's also due to a design fault on the scooter, which means that it's tracking rods or whatever. Anyway, it's a known fault, so, hopefully it won't cost Motability too much more money while I have this scooter replacing tyres. He's already ordered 2 new solid tyres for the future, which doesn't bode well, does it really? It sort of means he's half expecting these to wear out, but thankfully, at over £100 each tyre, I am so glad I don't have to pay. I do pay, in a way, because it's like a kind of insurance, isn't it? I pay so much a month to rent the scooter, but that does mean that I'm not liable for any repairs should it break down. I mean, it's had a new battery on it and different things like that. And it's had like 5 tyres in the 12 months I've had it, which would have made quite a dent in my bank balance, wouldn't it? Being as I'm so rich, of course, you all know I'm rich and famous. Would that I was, yeah. Well, I've absolutely got nothing to tell you, really. I don't know why I've even come on here, except, I need somebody to chat to. Yeah, you poor souls, you're the victims. I have to chat to you. Yeah. Oh dear, thank you all for your lovely comments. I do try and reply to them all, I don't always do it right away. I'm a bit, I procrastinate. Told you this many times before. I am a great procrastinator, if that is such a word, yeah. Right, what have I got to say today? I've just watched a couple of videos, yeah. If you're in the UK, Aldi are having some wool on offer on the 25th. I think it's a Sunday or a Saturday, I don't know. I haven't really bought any from Aldi, so I can't tell you what the quality's like. I've bought it in the past, many moons ago. Yeah, I've probably still got some in the shed if I look carefully. But as you can see from the state of my shed, I need more wool like a hole in the head. Yeah. So I won't be tempted to go down and have a look. I will say, get thee behind me. I will not be tempted. I do love new yarn. We all do, don't we? There's something special about going online, or if possible, going in person, to have a good squish at all the wool, and find something, well, yarn as you call it in America. We call everything wool in England. Whether it's acrylic or whatever, it's still wool, yeah. It's like me, I had a wool shop. I didn't have a yarn shop, I had a wool shop. 90% of the stuff in there wasn't wool, but that's by the by, yeah. So what can I talk to you about? I could talk to you about how we got started in the wool shop in the first place, yeah. Mum and Dad, yeah. I can remember very well, Mum used to slave away in this shed in the back garden that made my shed look teeny weeny. My shed, by the way, is 20 foot by 8 foot. I don't know metres, but it's 20 foot by 8 foot, which to me is small, but to my son it's huge. My mum had a shed in the back. Well, it wasn't the back garden, it was the back area, which was about at least twice the size of this shed. But bear in mind, in it she had 2 or 3 industrial knitting machines. We're not talking the little home knitting machines. We're talking the massive big industrial machines that knitted wool, it was wool in those days, as fine as sewing thread. She made some fantastic things on it. She used to do a cut and sew. She used to make pieces and then overlock them, you know, with your, I don't know what you call it serger, I think. Overlock them into shapes. We also had a wonderful sock machine, which she couldn't sell when we were moving out, which I wish we'd have kept, because, I mean, you know, it was wonderful. It was all metal and it's lovely. My dad used to churn out socks, although he never lived down the day that he got distracted and he turned the heel 3 times on one sock. It's probably one of the only times I ever saw my mum laugh. She laughed and laughed when she saw this sock. Can you imagine it? My dad said it was her fault. She kept talking to him and distracting him, and he kept thinking he had to turn the heel. Because honestly, you know, you can't see the knitting because it goes down the hole. Yeah. Anyway, back to the story. So Mum always had it in her mind that she would love to have a wool shop. Bear in mind, my dad was a butcher. My mum used to work the housewife shift at the mill sometimes from 6 till 10 in the evening to get some extra money in. My parents were very good at juggling money. They had nought, you know, they had nothing. But they were very good at putting a bit by, you know, saving. Anyway, they came home one day. I would be about 11. I'd just started at the grammar school, and said they'd found this shop that we were going to move to. And it had living accommodation with it. Bear in mind, at the time we lived in a little 2 up, 2 down, but it did have a bathroom. Tiny, but functional. So off we goes to look at this shop. Well, my heart sank. It was derelict. It had been empty for a long, long time. The windows in the house bit that was behind and above the shop were all smashed in. The kitchen was littered with bricks, half bricks that people had thrown through the glass, the windows, yeah. So I thought, oh my God, yeah, what on earth? But they wanted to open it and open it. We eventually did. Well, I cried for days when we moved in this place. It was freezing cold, absolutely freezing cold. It was much, much bigger than what I was used to. So, of course, with not having central heating and things like that, it was freezing. I should be used to cold, shouldn't I? Because it was freezing cold. So we put new windows in. And the first time we sort of were there, I think within the first week, a little boy was in the backyard, threw a brick through the new window. My dad went out to shout at him, but he had Down syndrome, yeah. So my dad just sort of said, where do you live? And he took him home and he explained to the mum. The mum, of course, she was so upset, offered to pay for the window and everything. She said, I'm afraid he's got used to doing it because, like, nobody's lived in this place for years and years and years. So every time he sort of wandered off, he must have been throwing bricks through the window. Of course, he saw a new window. Wow, you don't throw a brick through that. So once again, another new window goes in. But I must admit that she did keep this young man under control, and he didn't throw any more bricks after that. So we moved in, and we had hardly any money to stock the shop. So my mum had put what little bits of wool that she had, and they opened the shop. Of course, nobody came in at first really, except to have a nosy. My dad had dressed the window as best as he could, and I always remember him coming in, and he was really crestfallen, yeah, because some woman had gone by and she looked in the window and she said, oh, call themselves a wool shop, she said. What a paltry show. Paltry means pathetic. So my dad was really upset by this. Anyway, despite all the odds, the shop did start to do a little bit of trade. And eventually we managed to stock it a little bit more and stock it a bit better. So by the time I was about 13 or 14, the shop was kind of taking off, and it looked more like a wool shop. It actually had wool in it as opposed to 2 or 3 packets here, there and everywhere. But I was still not happy, because after coming from a bathroom, we went to this place that had a bath. Oh yes, it had a bath. But the bathroom window was facing the cinema that was behind us, well, the back of the cinema. And they had a projection box up at the top, above the roof of the site. Wouldn't allow it now these days. It was like a wooden hut perched on the roof of the house across the road. And they used to sit outside and look straight through the window. So, you know, you couldn't have a bath in privacy without curtains and stuff. And it was freezing in there, freezing cold. Anyway, I remember, oh my God, complaining bitterly. And I was sleeping in the front bedroom, which was across, well, it was outside, there was a bus stop. So you can imagine a 14-year-old girl having to live in a bedroom with the curtains closed all the time because the bus used to stop. And all the people on the upstairs of the bus used to look in the bedroom if I drew the curtains back, you know, so I could see what I was doing to do my homework or something. You know, it was like, oh, everybody on the bus having a look in the windows, and I'm like, Mum, I hate it here. I really hate it here. Anyway, time went on. My mum and dad got a little bit more money, so we had a bathroom put in. Whee! And it actually had a bit of a heater put in, so at least you weren't freezing when you were in the bath. Yeah. And they made me a bedroom at the back of the house, which again had one tiny little radiator that ran off the downstairs. We had a baxifier, if you know what that is. It ran off coke, and it heated a back boiler behind, which heated the hot water. We also had an immersion heater, which you used to switch on if you wanted a bath, because there was never enough hot water in the back of this baxi boiler for you to have a bath. There was enough to wash your hands and face and wash the dishes or something like that, but never enough to have a bath. You get about that much water in the bottom of the bath before it ran out and went cold. So anyway, we got a bathroom. Oh, what? And I actually got my bedroom. But guess where my bedroom was facing? The projection house of the cinema. So once again, I had to have the curtains drawn most of the time. Otherwise, I had this projectionist who used to sit and smoke while the film was on. And also, you knew what film was on because it was so loud. You know, I may never have seen the films that were on, you know, in the, what would it be, the 50s, yeah, would it be? Yeah, it'd be the 50s, maybe early 60s. But I knew all the soundtrack. And they had the same film on, like, all week, you know, so by the end of the week you were a little bit sick of this film. It was okay when it was a musical and you could have the music playing. But a lot of the time it was westerns, you know, or something like that. It was before the era of sci-fi and all this. But you'd have westerns. So you'd be sitting in your bedroom trying to do your homework, because remember, I had the only radiator in the house. And all you could hear was bang, 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 you know, shoot 'em dead, you know. It's a wonder I ever finished my education with as much, you know, sort of, what do you call it? I had my GCSEs or whatever. Well, there weren't GCSEs in my day, there were GCEs. But I managed to get 7 of those. Yay me. And good. We won't talk about the history and the geography, but the rest of them were quite good, yeah. Anyway, as time went on, of course, the shop gathered up speed and everything like that. And by the time I came, no, it was before I was married, yeah. We decided we would branch out into another shop. So we went and we bought, because, how can I put it? I left school and I was supposed to go to university. Lots of things happened when I was supposed to go to university. On the week I was supposed to go down Freshers' Week or whatever, where they would allocate me a place to stay, because it was Liverpool University I was accepted at. And they were allocating me a room in the halls where I would have been staying in this room. No, Janet had to get appendicitis and finish up in hospital having her appendix out. so I missed completely the Freshers' Week or whatever. Gets in touch with the university. Oh yes, they would still accept me, I could still go, but I would have to find my own accommodation because the halls were full. My mum and dad were not exactly helpful along this situation. It was like, oh, well, go to the university and I am sure you will find somewhere to stay. Well, talking to a 17-year-old girl who'd never left home, bit of a shy little thing, I just didn't want to do that. I said, no, come with me, you know, come and find me somewhere to stay. No, the university will find you somewhere to stay, just go, you know. And it was too far to commute every day, because the train service wasn't what it is like it is now, yeah. Too far to commute every day to go to the university. So I said, no, I'm not going, I'll go next year. So I then tried to look for a job, which my qualifications, although they were great, were set to go to university, not to go out into the general world. Didn't have shorthand typing, didn't have all the things that office jobs wanted in those days, yeah. I did eventually manage to get a job at the NatWest Bank, which was national provincial as it was in those days. So I went there. That didn't work out because I had an argument with the boss because of holidays. I was the junior and I had to take over the leftover holidays that nobody else wanted. It was a small branch. People were dithering, and I wanted to go on my holiday with my friend. And I couldn't get them to answer, yeah. And it was like kind of like May or November for holidays from what I could gather. I thought, I don't want to go May and November. I don't want to go. I want to go when the sun's shining. So I booked a holiday in St Ives with my friend. And I went in and I said, I've booked my holiday because you won't tell me what times I can have off. I've booked it. And he turned round and said, you can just unbook it because you can't have those 2 weeks. So I said, oh, okay. So I went home and I said to my mum and dad, I'm taking those 2 weeks. And they said, oh, you can't do that. You'll lose your job. I said, no, I won't lose my job. I said, I'll write my letter of resignation. Of course, my mum was like, oh, no, don't do that. I said, no, they're not pushing me about, you know. I might have been a little shy little thing when I was 17, but I still used to stand up to my guns, you know. I wouldn't be pushed around. Yeah. So I walked in the following day and said, I am taking those 2 weeks holiday. And he said, no, you're not. I said, here we are. Oh, my resignation. Oh, he said, oh, can we not persuade you to stay? Can we not this? Can we not that? And I said, no, I'm going. Bye. I'm gone. So, of course, that left me without a job. So my mum said to me, well, you better earn your keep some way or another. You better help out in the shop. So, help out in the shop I did. I never bothered looking for another job. I was quite happy helping out in the shop. But my mum, of course, thought, this is not working out, you know. We'll get her another shop, yeah? We'll go, we'll expand, we'll bag another shop. So that's how come we got the second shop. The second shop was my shop. I had staff, of course. It wasn't just me on my own. So we opened up the second shop. By this time, of course, we opened it up properly with lots of stock and stuff like that, you know. I am kind of like amazed when I go into wool shops now, and kind of like in a lot of the shops, I've got more stock in the shed, you know, than I have in their shops. We were fully stocked. And for a long time we did very well. Did very well indeed. And then the original shop, they decided to compulsory purchase us because they wanted to build an Asda. That's like an Asda Walmart on the site. So all the years and Mum and Dad had built up this trade and everything, we got a pathetic little pittance of money. Pathetic little pittance that they offered us as compensation for losing our livelihood, our shop, not only the shop, my mum's living accommodation. And it was pathetic. We argued, we did everything we could, but no, they have this set fee that they're going to pay you, yeah. So out of the shop they had to come. So of course they were building a new precinct in Royton, new shopping precinct. So my mum said, oh well, we'll go and rent. Because they needed the money, the pittance of money, they needed it to buy somewhere to live. Because it was not just the shop, it was the shop and the living accommodation. So they couldn't divide the money to buy a new shop and to buy a house. So they bought a house and rented. So we went to the precinct in Royton, which was, oh, it was lovely, brand new precinct, full of shops, everything was filled, gorgeous. And once again we did very, very well with that. But the landlords, you know, they are so greedy. We bought a shell, but we rented a shell. There was no front to it, no frontage. There was no plaster on the walls, it was just breeze block, if you know what breeze block is. So we had to pay to have all the shop front put in, the doorway put in, all the window put in, toughened glass and all that, which cost a bomb. We had to pay for somebody to come and plaster all the walls, and then we had to pay for have all the shelving put in. We paid everything. There wasn't even a kitchen sink or anything. There was just a toilet and a little hand basin. That's all there was. You couldn't have even made a brew. You couldn't have made anything. So my dad had to fit out part of it. There's a little bit of a kitchen, you know, so at least we could sit somewhere and have our sandwiches at lunchtime and, you know, make a coffee and that. It started leaking. It was leaking in on the staff, the stock. Leaking in, well, it was leaking on the staff as well. Leaking in. Oh, the landlord. Flat roof. So they came and put a little bit of tarmac on it. Still raining in. Couldn't get any joy out of it. Remember, we're paying megabucks for rent for this place, yeah. We weren't the only ones that were raining in. The whole brand new precinct, the whole thing was raining in, yeah. Which is not good when you've got wool stock, you know. You can't sell people wet wool, can you? So my dad paid another fortune out to have the roof redone, which lasted for a little while, but it just was badly constructed. Raining in. Anyway, the top and bottom of that was they put the rent up. No repairs done, just. And it was like eating into what profits we got all the time, because they're so greedy, to these landlords, so greedy. And I'd got married by this time. I had my son and everything like that, and my mum and dad were getting older and different things were happening, so we decided we would sell the shop in Boston. So we sold it as a going concern, and the bloke who bought it ran it into the ground and sold it on for a mega profit. Yeah, we really got stitched over with him, yeah. I'll never forgive him for that. He ran the shop into the ground. It was a thriving concern when we sold it in. Ran it in the ground, yeah. I think it's now an African wig shop or something like that now. So we then concentrated on the one shop in Royton, but we got so fed up of the landlord putting the rent up. Mum and Dad could no longer work really in the shop because they were getting elderly and, you know, things were happening. So we moved across the road into a tiny shop that we bought, yeah. So everything was doing well until we hit the sort of 90s. And I don't know whether you were around in the 90s, there was a big slump in knitting and everything. Everybody was going to these shops. It wasn't quite Primark, but everybody was buying clothes, cheap clothes. We were selling baby clothes and baby things like that, and people like Asda, Walmart and that, and what was it called, that baby shop, they were selling clothes at far cheaper than we could ever buy them to sell, yeah. So things were going down. By this time I'd got divorced. Well, I wasn't divorced, I was separated. But my ex-husband wanted his money out of the half of the house, understandably so, I presume. which meant that I was left with 2 ailing parents, and I was left with a shop that wasn't doing very well, and I had 2 mortgages to pay because I was buying my ex-husband out of the house. Yeah. So sadly, it just went, oh, I cried and cried and cried. The accountant kept telling me, you cannot go on like this, Janet, you're just in negative equity. I had to let one of my staff go, then I had to let 2 of my staff go, and I was virtually running it on my own, and I still could not cope, with it, yeah. The bank manager was on my case, saying, you can't keep on like this. People were saying to me, how come you're not getting any new stock in? How come you're not buying any new yarn and that? And I was trying to make up excuses. Well, I didn't really fancy the new lines, And all in all, really, I was just trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. So eventually, sad day, I had to close it. I got rid of half of my, well, more than half of the stock went at pittance prices. Absolutely. There was no such thing then as eBay. No such thing as a web page. Nothing you could sell online or anything like that. It was only physical people actually coming into the shop. And I did have quite a few loyal customers who absolutely cried buckets with me when I had to shut, yeah. So that is the story of how I ever came into wool. We did have, how many years? I think I was in my middle 50s when we closed the shop, and they bought it when I was 11. So we had 40-something years being in the wool trade, yeah. So anybody who wants to have a wool shop, maybe you can work it these days because you've got the sort of online presence, haven't you? You've got the web page presence, you've got the opportunity to sell online, which I didn't have. It was just physical people coming over the doorstep. Yeah? And would I do it again? I would in this current climate if I was in my 20s. 30s even. I would. Having the facilities to sell online, having the facilities to advertise, I would do it again. But, oh gosh, at my time of life, no, I wouldn't do it again now. It would be too much. I couldn't do it. Physically I couldn't do it. Mentally I couldn't do it. But if anybody wants to know, that's the story of how I became into the wool shop business. Now I've just got a shed that's got too much yarn. And if people think I've got too much yarn, you should have seen it before. Look back at my old videos when there's me and Sue tidying out I had a bedroom, I had a small bedroom, and I had a garage, all full of wool. So just look at those. Anyway, bye for now. I'm not going anywhere. It's raining and it's horrible and it's cold. So bye for now.